Resourceful Designer, episode 39. Don't put all your design work in one basket.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. He's a self-professed TV-aholic, Mark DeCote.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you joined me today. And I hope this week is finding you prospering in your design business. Now, you want to hear something funny? Well, maybe not funny. Maybe I should say ironic. In last episode, episode 38, I told you that this podcast would be all about time management. Well, the ironic thing is, I didn't have time to prepare for that episode. I've had so many things going on my plate recently that I just didn't have the time to do the prep work that I wanted to for that episode. So I'm going to put that topic off for another time. And instead, I'm going to concentrate this episode on a message that came about after connecting with an old classmate. But before getting to that, there's a few things I just want to discuss. First of all, thank you to everyone who voted for Resourceful Designer in the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Unfortunately, the podcast did not win the award, but I am grateful nonetheless just to have been nominated. And that's something that they can never take away. I was a finalist in the 2016 People's Choice Podcast Awards. So thank you once again to everyone who voted and for those who nominated the podcast. I really, really do appreciate it. It means so much to me. Now, speaking of things that mean so much to me, I received another 5-star review in iTunes this week. And this one came in from Semi Mike from the USA. It's titled Resourceful, No Nonsense, Great. This is a fantastic no-nonsense podcast for anyone interested in or involved in the real-life world of graphic design. Mark is clear, concise, and very easy to listen to. His practical knowledge of design and running a home-based graphic design business has proven extremely helpful to me. I'll be a faithful listener for as long as Mark decides to continue Resourceful Designer. Cheers, Michael. Well, thanks for that, Michael. I'm glad to know that I'm helping you out. And if anyone else would like to leave a review in iTunes, please head to resourcefuldesigner.com/iTunes, and that'll conveniently redirect you right to my podcast in iTunes, where you can click on the ratings and review tab and leave your review. Now, if you are listening on Stitcher or on Google Play Music, you can also leave reviews there. I also want to thank everybody who's downloaded my 4-week marketing boost. Within the past 2 weeks, I've gotten a bunch of people that have signed up and received the guide. Now, if you haven't gotten your copy yet, please visit marketingboost.net, or if you're in the US, simply text Marketing Boost to 44222. Now, that only works in the USA. Now, as always, I like to share a resource of the week in every podcast, and this week's resource is Liberstock. Now, Liberstock is something that I actually just discovered this past week. It was mentioned in a group I belong to as a very handy resource that many of the members use, so I had never heard of it. I decided to check it out, and what Liberstock is, it's a meta search engine that scans the indexes of stock photos from over 40 different websites. It's the biggest searchable database of free, high-quality stock photos on the internet. And the best thing about Liberstock is that all the photos are licensed under the Creative Commons 0, which means that you can use the pictures freely for any legal purpose. They're free to use for commercial or personal use. You can modify them, copy them, distribute them, and there's absolutely no attribution required. So no, this is not a site like iStock Photo or Adobe Stock Images. But I did a quick search and there were some really, really nice things you can get there. And they're all free stock photos licensed under the Creative Commons 0. So do with them as you please. So to check it out and see if it's something you might be interested in, visit liberstock.com. That's LIBRE stock.com. And now on to this week's topic. Don't put all your design work in one basket. Now, for this week's podcast, I'm going a little bit off the cuff here. I didn't really do a lot of prep work. It all came about when an old classmate of mine from my college days reached out to say that he had been listening to the podcast and was enjoying what I was doing. Now, we got into a little conversation because I hadn't talked to him in so long. And during that conversation, something came up that both he and I thought would be a really good topic to discuss on the podcast. Now, I didn't ask for his permission to share his name or anything, so for the purpose of this episode, I'm just going to call him Bob. So Bob and I went to school together for graphic design. Now, I didn't really keep in contact with him that much after we graduated. There were several times over the years where I'd stumble across him on some sort of social media platform, or for some reason his name would pop up somewhere, and I would check out his portfolio on his website and see what sort of things he was up to. Now, Bob was a very good designer back in college, and from what I saw the few times I checked in with him over the years, his skills continued to improve. Now, Bob started his own graphic design business long before I did mine. I remember being at the print shop working and stumbling across him and seeing, oh, wow, he's on his own. That's great. And he might have actually been one of the inspirations. I mean, there was many others that I can think of, but he might have been one of the inspirations to help me decide to start my own home-based graphic design business. Well, during my conversation recently with Bob, he made an offhanded comment about something he didn't like his boss was doing. And I picked up on that and I questioned him. I said, "Boss, I thought you ran your own business." And he replied that he's had his own business for 17 years. But within the last year, things started slowing down and a couple of his major clients were taken over by other companies and he ended up losing the contract to do work for them. So he said things got a little bleak for his business and he decided that he would get back into the workforce and start collecting a steady paycheck again by working for an employer. Now, he says he's still running his own business on the side, but he said that after 17 years, things were starting to get to him and it was time for a change. And this conversation really got me thinking, because now I've been in business for myself for 11 years now, and I've seen this happen as well, where, stuff changes, your clients. I can honestly say that 95% of the clients that I work for today are not the clients I worked with 10 years ago. I might only have one or two clients that are still with me from way back then. And they leave for all sorts of reasons. Some of them just close up shop. Some of them get bought out by another company and they don't need your services anymore. There were some companies that decided to hire an in-house designer and didn't need my services anymore. And others, just for no particular reason, just stopped calling. Whatever the reason is, it does affect your business. And that's what the topic of this week's podcast is when I say don't put all your design work in one basket. I mean, you've all heard the saying, don't put your eggs in one basket, which basically means that if something happens to that basket, if you fall in it or drop the basket and all your eggs are in it and they all break, that's it. You've got no more eggs. Well, the same goes for your design work. What happened with Bob and with a lot of designers is they get some really, really good clients that really help bring in the money. Like they are the ones that pay your bills. But what happens is when you lose those clients, you lose the majority portion of your income. And that could be really hard on a business. I remember one of the clients that I brought with me when I moved and I started my own business, a client that actually followed me from the print shop and stuck with me was our local tourism office. And I did all the work for this tourism, not just for the city, but for the surrounding area. So not only did I do work for the tourism office, but through them, I did work for a lot of their clients, like the local attractions, bed and breakfasts, special events that were happening around the area. I would end up inadvertently getting work from them because of my work with the tourism office. And that went on for many years. And as you know, I've mentioned before in the podcast that I also do print brokering. And through that deal, I was pulling in some really good money. There was some years where I was making in excess of $30,000 off that one client. But things like that don't last. And at one point, they decided to try to save some costs and hire their own in-house designer. And in that one move, I lost all that income. Now, I was lucky because they were only one of my clients. And yes, it did hurt my pocketbook big time. But I was able to survive because of the diversity of clients that I did have. And other clients kind of filled in the hole and I was able to attract other people. And I made it through that lull. But see, that's what it comes down to. When you're running your own business, you can't count on just 1, 2, or 3 clients being all you have. It is great when you do have these really big clients that bring in lots of money for you, but you can't rely on just that. Nor can you rely on clients just in one industry. I've seen designers where they wanted to niche down. Like I knew of a web designer that all they did was websites for dentists. That was their specialty. They knew everything they needed to know about the dental industry, what sort of stuff to include in that, and they made an entire business about building websites for dentists. And they did really well for quite a few years. But then things started slowing down. They had already built websites for all the local dentists and dentists a little bit out of their immediate market. And they tried to get stuff from elsewhere, but it was a lot harder to attract the work from across the nation or internationally than it was to attract your local businesses. And after a while, they ended up closing up shop because there weren't enough dentists coming in and ordering websites from them. So in that case, that designer was putting all her eggs in one basket. She went after the dentist industry and was counting on it to earn an income. And as I said, she made a good income for several years. But in the end, it wasn't sustainable. You have to diversify. Now, that doesn't mean that she lost out and she's no longer designing. To be honest, I've lost track of her, but I'm sure she started up something new and is designing websites for maybe another niche industry, or maybe just in general designing websites, and she's not niched down to something like that. But it just goes to show you that whenever you're attracting clients, it's really good to find clients that are in the same industry, because then you can gain a lot of knowledge and become an expert on designing for that industry. But you can't rely on just it. You need to have clients that are outside that industry as well, or outside that market segment. Now, the irony of the whole thing is when you do have 1, 2, 3 really, really good clients, enough for you to make a living off of that you don't need other clients, that's the point where you actually fall into the trap and you stop marketing your business, because you say, I'm home free. I'm making more money now than I ever thought. I only have to work with 3 clients and I'm sitting pretty. So you stop marketing your business. You stop looking for new clients. You stop trying to make sales. And by doing so, you are actually taking yourself out of the market. Your name doesn't get out there. When people are looking for a designer, you're overpassed. And when 1, 2, or 3 of these clients go away, you're stuck with nothing. So what you have to do when you're running your own business, and if you look up many marketing guides and business guides, they'll tell you the exact same thing. When you're running your own business, the best time to market yourself and promote yourself is when you're really busy. Because if you do it properly, then you will never end up with a time when you're not busy. Because trust me, whenever you're not busy and you're sitting there looking for work, when you have bills and there's no money coming in to pay them, that's not the time for you to start thinking, oh, I better find some new clients or I better find some new jobs. And that's definitely not the time for you to start spending money on marketing and doing stuff when you have bills that you can't pay. Bob was very honest with me in his conversation and saying that he's not much of a salesperson and he kind of got lost in the work because that was the part he enjoyed the most. He loved the designing so much and he didn't like being the salesperson or trying to go out there and get work. So he let it slide when he didn't think he needed to do it. And it came back to bite him. I've mentioned in previous podcasts how there's so much more to running a graphic design business than just designing. In fact, there's some days where you might only spend 10, 15, 20% of your day actually designing, and the rest of it is taking care of your business. And that's why running a home-based business is not for everyone. Because some people, that's all they want to do is design. Now, I'm not counting Bob in that demographic. Obviously, he ran a business for 17 years and he's still running it on the side. So I give him credit where credit is due. But even he admits that he could have done better with his business in diversifying, in finding new clients, and not counting on the major clients that he was doing the work for to sustain him long term. So that's all I wanted to really cover in this week's episode. Just to make sure that you know that when you're running your own home-based business, you've got to diversify yourself and have a wide range of clients in different industries, in different market segments, different demographics. It is great if you can focus on one and you have a niche and you become an expert in that field. But unless you could find a way to keep that sustainable long-term, and long-term meaning until you retire, you do have to diversify and find other ways to supplement your income. And in order to do that, as I mentioned earlier, the best thing to do is to market yourself, get out there and sell, and to attract new clients while you're busy with your current clients. Because the worst thing that can happen is for you to be in a lull with no work to do, no clients coming in, and now's the point where you start thinking, I have to find new clients. It'll be too stressful. You're not going to have the money to spend to do it properly, and you won't be in the right state of mind to communicate with possible new clients, and you could actually be turning work away without even realize it because of the demeanor you have due to the stressful situation you're in. So I just wanted to get that out there. As I said, it was nice touching base with my old classmate from college. It's nice to hear that he's happy where he's working now and that he's getting a steady paycheck. But being a home-based graphic designer, it always hurts me when I hear of somebody that had to step away or put their own business to the side because things weren't working out properly. Now, I'm glad he didn't shut down his business and that he is keeping things going for some of his clients. And maybe one day he'll get back to it. But as I said, it's not for everyone. It takes a special person to be able to run a successful home-based graphic design business. So remember, don't put all your design work in one basket. Now, I just want to say that there's going to be a little bit of a wider gap between episodes for the next several weeks as we work our way through the summer. I've been trying to keep to a weekly schedule and publishing the podcast at least once a week. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sustain that over the next few weeks just because of holidays and other things happening. So don't be alarmed if you see a week go by and a podcast episode doesn't come out. Just be patient and I will be back in your ears before you know it. Now, before I sign off, I do have a question of the week, and this week's question comes in from Gabrielle. She says, there are many tips already given for someone wanting to break into the freelance design industry when going the self-taught route, such as creating self-initiated design work and using that in a portfolio while continuing to learn. What about finding a design mentor when going the self-taught route? Is it possible to find one and manage that relationship online, or is it only possible in person? How would a self-taught beginning designer persuade a mentor to teach them? Well, thanks for the question, Gabrielle. Now, you asked a couple of questions in here. First of all, it doesn't matter if you went to school or if you're learning on your own. Finding a design mentor can be a benefit either way. And a good mentor will find the value in your skill and in your demeanor and in your work, and not necessarily in your educational background. So there's no reason why a self-taught designer shouldn't be able to find a design mentor. Now, whether it's possible to find one and manage that relationship online, or is it only possible in person? In today's world, everything is manageable online. With Skype, FaceTime, ways to share your computer screen, ways to share big files via Dropbox or some other service such as that. There is no reason why you have to be face-to-face with your mentor. It's just a matter of staying persistent. Once you find somebody and someone that agrees to mentor you, you just set up scheduled times or scheduled communication, just like you would if you were meeting them in real life. Now, how would a self-taught beginning graphic designer persuade a mentor to teach them? Well, Gabrielle, the way is no different for an educated graphic designer. Somebody that's self-taught may be a little behind because they don't have some of the skills that were taught in school, but that doesn't mean they don't have the creativity or the ability to learn or be mentored. Now, as far as persuading somebody, to be honest, I've never had a personal design mentor. I think the closest thing I ever had is there was one of my professors in college that I really, really looked up to. And we kind of built a relationship while in school. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure he had some sort of relationship with every student there. But I felt like I had a special relationship with this one teacher. And I did keep in contact with him after I finished school. Not so much as a design mentor, but just somebody that I might be able to bounce questions off every once in a while. Now, on a side note, a funny thing here is many years later when I was working at the print shop, the teacher that I viewed as my mentor, although it was never a formality, we never said that he was the mentor and I was his student in that sense of the word. I mean, I was his student when I was at college. But many years when I was working at the print shop, he actually came to work at the print shop as well. And the print shop was actually reluctant to hire him because at this point they had shut down the design program at my local college. So he had lost his job there and he was actually working for this big agency out of Ottawa. But he didn't like the commute every day, the over an hour driving back and forth. So whenever he found out there was a job opening at the print shop, he applied for it. And they were saying, well, this is way below what you're currently doing. But he said he didn't care. He only had a few years left until retirement. And he would be happy to work there. So he came to work at the print shop. And the funny thing is by this point, he looked at my work and he started asking me questions. And it came to a point where he actually admitted that the student had become the teacher because when it came to the computers and some of the stuff I was doing, I had well surpassed him. But that relationship that we formed is very strong. And even after he retired and after I left the print shop, we still have a good relationship together. Now, that has nothing to do with your question. It's just a little story I wanted to throw in there. But Gabrielle, one thing I do want to say is it would be really nice if you do find a mentor that can teach you, that can guide you. But there's nothing stopping you from finding hundreds of mentors through different groups. I belong to some Facebook groups for graphic designers, and new designers or self-taught designers are constantly posting stuff and asking for advice. Now, you have to be thick-skinned because there will be some people that will look at what's posted and they won't give you constructive criticism. They'll just look at it and say, this is terrible. Go back to whatever you did before you decided to be a designer. And those are the type of comments, you just read them and then let them go by. But there will be some people, myself included, I help people out all the time, where people will post something in the group and ask opinions. What do you think of this? Or here are 2 ideas I have, or what do you think I can do better? And there are very, very talented designers that will give advice, give their time to help critique and point things out and give direction. And it's a wonderful, wonderful way for a designer to learn and to grow and to build their skill, something I wish I had when I first started out. So it would be great to find a mentor, like you said. But while you're looking, make sure you participate in all these groups and put your stuff out there, and don't be afraid to get criticism. And if people come back and say it's awful, don't be afraid to follow back with them and say, what's awful about it? I'm trying to improve and I want to know. And don't forget that design is very subjective. One person might tell you that the logo you're showing would look better if you straightened out a certain element, and somebody else will look at it and tell you the opposite and say it would look better if you rounded out that item instead. And because design is so subjective, you can learn from all sorts of different angles. You might not want to do anything with that particular logo, but the comments you're getting can teach you and show you different things, like taking that element and straightening it out. Then you can see, okay, well, that would do this and that would create this sort of look. Or the other comment about curving it out more, then you would look at the element and say, yeah, I can see if I curve it out more, then it'll create this sort of effect. And it's type of stuff that you might not think of on your own, but having all these different people giving you advice, even if it's contradicting advice, giving you this advice can help you grow as a designer. And by participating in these Facebook groups and these LinkedIn groups and wherever else, Reddit, anywhere else that they have these sort of groups where people can critique your work and give you advice, are worth so much more than having a mentor, which is just one person guiding you. Yes, it would be wonderful to have, but when it comes down to it, Gabriel, there's not a lot of designers that actually have a one-on-one mentor. So take advantage of these groups. They don't cost you anything to join, and you can get very valuable information as long as you learn how to weed out the trolls and the people that are just in there to criticize without giving you any constructive comments. And of course, this applies to whether you're a self-taught designer or you are an educated designer. I'm an educated designer who's been in this industry for over 25 years, and yet I still learn stuff by visiting these groups all the time. And I love participating and sharing my knowledge with others there. So I hope that answers your question, Gabrielle. I wish you all the best and just keep working at it. Every designer had to start somewhere, whether you're self-taught or you're at a school. Everybody had to start somewhere, learn the basics, and then it just comes down to practice, 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 just like anything else in life. So that was a great question. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer on a future episode of the podcast, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback to submit your question. Now, in the next podcast episode, no, I will not be doing time management. I'm going to put that one off for a little bit. I moved it down a little bit on my list. But next episode will be about file etiquette when sharing amongst designers. So keep an eye out in your feed for that one. As I said, it might be a little bit more than a week before it comes out, but it will be coming, and that will be episode 40. And I do look forward to discussing that one with you. And once again, I want to remind you of my resource of the week, which is liberstock.com, a site that searches over 40 free stock photo sites and makes it really easy for you to discover great free photos with a Creative Commons 0 license that you can use for whatever you want. And you can get that by visiting librestock.com. That's LIBRE stock.com. So until next time, I wish you all the best in your graphic design business. I am Mark DeCote, and as always, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.